from the town of Dinant
in Belgium, a little more than an hour outside the Belgian capital of Brussels. With a really jaw-dropping picturesque setting on the Meuse River.
It's a favorite of photographers and Instagrammers.
The Meuse is a major European river, running almost 600 miles through France, Belgium, and the Netherlands. We're here on a bus tour and have a mere 75 minutes to check out this cute town. What can we possibly do in that short amount of time? Let's find out.
The first thing you'll notice walking around are saxophones. In fact, there's 100 of them.
Giant ones running about 10 feet tall, which means they're about 5 times bigger than a real saxophone. So why so many saxophones? Well, Dinant is the birthplace of Adolphe Sax, and he is the inventor of the saxophone. He was also credited with other instruments, tweaking them, making them better, but the saxophone is his real bread and butter. The saxophone trail continues over the bridge, and each saxophone is accompanied with a flag. Those flags represent the countries featured on those saxophones. There's an annual saxophone competition, and the competitors are from these countries. So this is quite an international representation. Each giant saxophone is decorated so uniquely, it's fun to see what the artist chose to represent each country. Here's the U.S. This one's from Croatia. We're actually getting a geography lesson while on a bridge. How cool is that? This bridge is named after Charles de Gaulle, the famous general from World War II. But in World War I, the then Lieutenant de Gaulle was injured during the Battle of Dinant. That's when the Germans took over the town, battling a combined French and Belgian force. The Germans then massacred nearly 700 residents of Dinant, a reprisal against the civilian population. Dinant was one of 8 so-called martyr towns where thousands of civilians were murdered by the invading Germans across Belgium. One of the must-dos in Dinant, even on such a brief visit like this, is to head to the top of the Citadel or fortress. You can either climb some stairs, it's 408 steps, or take a cable car. Here we go! We're taking this cable ride. It's about 2.5 minutes long. I know it's going to be backlit, but sometimes you just gotta do it. The Citadel was built and rebuilt starting in the year 1040, protecting the town from the French. The French later, well, centuries later, would become their allies against the Nazis. It's kind of interesting how friends and enemies change over time. Take a minute to enjoy the panoramic view of Dinant and the Meuse River below, but also reflect on the rich history of this region and the sacrifices of the people who fought and died here. Well, that view was worth it. So I think if I had to do only one thing here in Dinant, that was it. Visiting this town, it's hard to look down when you're walking. But you should. You'll see these brass footsteps, and they lead to the house of Adolphe Sax, which is also a museum these days. But do look up, at least to see this distinctive Collegiate Church of Our Lady. Dates back to the 13th century, but there was a church here as far back as the 10th century. But in 1227, a huge rock that was hanging over the church fell and killed 36 people. The church was rebuilt, as you can see. One of the more unique things about this church is the pear-shaped bell tower built in the 1500s for the town hall. But somehow, it ended up here in the church. You go inside, and what's distinctive is this huge bank of stained glass windows. The images represent the life of the Virgin Mary. It's said to be one of the largest installations in Europe. Talk about a quick visit to this adorable town. I hope, though, it shows you how utterly charming and interesting places can be, no matter what the size. Thanks for joining me on Mary Goes Round the World. We're doing this Dinant tour as part of a combo Luxembourg-Dinant. We'd love to do Dinant by itself, but it's like a 2.5-hour train ride because it's so remote. My recommendation for you is actually Dinant deserves at least just a day, a full day.